What's up? This is Dr. Taylor Krick, host of the Autoimmune Doc podcast, and here's a great study that I want to review. Now, I honestly think that I've reviewed this study on my other YouTube channel, but this channel is specifically designed to provide literature supporting some of the things that I talk about on my podcast. So in the podcast, it's focused on autoimmunity, and so there's a lot of talk about gut health. There's a lot of talk about vitamin D, which I would say are very elementary in the autoimmune space, but just like elementary school, it's important. You can't move on to anything after that if you don't get through the elementary things. So this is a great paper, and summarizing it, the takeaway is going to be just how important these things are for autoimmune disease. There's also some great images in this paper, so this is a good one. It comes from Frontiers in Immunology, January 2020, my favorite journal. And it's the relationship between vitamin D, the gut microbiome, and systemic autoimmunity. So there's increasing recognition of the role that the microbiome plays in states of health and disease. Microbiome studies in systemic autoimmune disease demonstrate unique microbial patterns in IBD, rheumatoid arthritis, lupus to a lesser extent, whereas there is no single bug or pattern that characterizes multiple sclerosis. Autoimmune diseases tend to share a predisposition for vitamin D deficiency, which alters the microbiome and the integrity of the gut epithelial barrier. In this review, we summarize the influence of the bacteria on the immune system, explore the patterns that have emerged, and discuss how vitamin D deficiency may contribute to autoimmunity via its effects on intestinal barrier function, microbiome, and direct effects on immune responses. So, 15 million people live with an autoimmune disease. In autoimmunity, the immune system targets normal tissue. We all know that. Vitamin D deficiency has long been associated with systemic autoimmune disease and is suspected to play a role in the pathogenesis. So then we go through this. So let's look at this. The gut microbiome influences immune responses in autoimmune disease. I'm not going to go into all of this, but it explains how evidence has shown in especially the last 20 years, the gut is really crucial to autoimmune disease. If this is your first time hearing this, press stop on this and come back later. That is, again, an elementary thing, but the gut is really important is what they're saying. So they're reviewing all the studies on this, and then they look at the different bacteria that influence inflammation and immune response. So they look at, just kind of how that happens. Interleukin-1 beta, Th17, interleukin-6, these are inflammatory cytokines and effector T cells, and things like that, or helper T cells rather, with the Th17. So anyway, it goes through that. This is a great image. So let's see. What we are seeing here is this is the vitamin D gradient, meaning that over on the left, vitamin D is high. So the left side of the picture, vitamin D is high. The right side of the picture, vitamin D is low. So on the left side, we have some thin mucus and some thick mucus, and the thick mucus is thicker. And there's a protective microbiome. So the bugs, the balance of good and bad bacteria that's in your gut is protective. These Paneth cells are releasing mucus. There's tight junctions that are holding it tight together. And the things that are happening down here are anti-inflammatory. We're getting more short-chain fatty acids. We got more vitamin D. And yeah, we got good stuff going on. Versus over here, when vitamin D gets lower, we're more of a pro-inflammatory state. We've got more ROR gamma T cells. We've got Th17, which is very inflammatory, which does a lot of the tissue damaging inflammation in autoimmune disease. So and Th17 is interesting because it's important in the gut. You want Th17 in the gut. It kills things. But you don't want Th17 systemically in your joints and in your brain and those other things. So over here, you've got more invasive pathogens. You've got more dysbiosis. You've got more bad bugs and not as many protective bugs. Your mucus layer gets thinner. Your tight junctions get broken. You get leaky gut. Dendritic cells are sampling antigen in the lumen, and they're presenting them, and you have more of this pro-inflammatory response. That's the layperson's takeaway, is that one side is anti-inflammatory, one side is pro-inflammatory. Now, let's get back into this. As discussed, the literature supports that microbiota promote both humoral immunity as well as immune regulation. So, lots of different metabolites produced by bacteria, like short-chain fatty acids, play an important role in immune modulation. Short-chain fatty acids are byproducts of fiber fermentation in the large intestine. Really, 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 really important, these short-chain fatty acids. It says like here, butyrate leads to a downregulation of LPS-induced pro-inflammatory cytokine production by intestinal macrophages, further supporting butyrate as an anti-inflammatory metabolite. So short-chain fatty acids, again, they're fiber metabolites, so you want a good fiber diversity. You can also take short-chain fatty acids. The butyrate is found in grass-fed butter, but you can take short-chain fatty acids as a supplement, and they're very, very good. Then we go through, just again, literature review, microbial dysbiosis and autoimmunity. And then we go through specific diseases and the studies showing the correlations between those. So here's MS. Then we go to IBD, RA, lupus. And they talk about each one of those. And I'm not going through each one of them specifically. There are certain patterns and different dysbiosis and different, bugs, specific bugs like Prevotella that are associated with certain diseases and not others. But again, those are associative, and I don't want to talk about it. Vitamin D, an immune defense in the gut. So it talks about so a lot of these, there's many, many mechanisms by which vitamin D is helpful in the gut. So it's talking about all these different mechanisms and the autoimmune diseases that it's been proven to alter, or the autoimmune diseases that are proven to have these associations with microbiome. There's one more image that I wanted to get to. Here's vitamin D supplementation, and then the changes in the microbiome. Here's vitamin D supports intestinal and immune cell defenses at the gut-immune interface. And then here's this other image that I wanted to show. So what this is saying is that, yes, there's a genetic predisposition. So they have to put that into everything, because genetic predisposition could make you more susceptible to this or this or this. But so in the middle here, we have low vitamin D or vitamin D receptor activity. So again, through your genetics, some people have SNPs in their VDR genes that just slow down their absorption. Some people have, gallbladder issues or fat malabsorption, and their vitamin D is low. Their fat-soluble vitamins are going to be low. There's all kinds of mechanisms through which vitamin D can be lower, but it's really, 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 really common. It's actually shocking just how low it is when you measure it all the time on people like I do. So that can cause increased immune activity or inflammation. Just low vitamin D in general can cause inflammation. It can also cause leaky gut or increased gut permeability. Increased inflammation is going to change the microbiome and going to drive more gut permeability. More gut permeability is going to drive more bacterial translocation. Bacteria will get through the gut, or even LPS will get through that leaky gut and drive more inflammation. So the point is that it's kind of hard to tell, but this is a vicious cycle going all different directions, and then the end result is often down here, autoimmunity. So again, this is a really, really, really good paper. This is a really detailed paper. It's really extensive, but the takeaway of it is that gut health matters, and vitamin D matters to not only gut health, but also to autoimmunity. So vitamin D is one of the things that in my office I call it a low-hanging fruit, because it's very inexpensive to test, it's very inexpensive to take, and it's implicated in so many different mechanisms and processes associated with not only autoimmune disease, but other diseases as well. So a low-hanging fruit and an easy thing, but there's some of the science and the research showing how supportive it is, and everybody should know their levels and should keep it at least, at an optimum level for autoimmune disease or otherwise.